Hey everyone, welcome to the Fandom Outpost. I can't even get through this introduction without smiling because I know it's going to happen. I am 1/3 your host as always. I am Mark.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Bob. Hey everybody, welcome to the show today.
I don't even know where to start, but this is we're going to talk about a movie. And this is a movie that my buddy over here, Bob, he has celebrated for 40 years. And it's not that it's not good, it's not bad, it's amazing. And that movie is
Return of the Living Dead, 1985 release. That we were all working at the theater together at this time. It was the perfect storm of a movie hitting and us being into movies at the time, and it was just a laugh riot. And it's such a fun movie. It's such a good horror movie. It's just got so much to it that it's, for me, and I think you guys feel the same way, it's upheld over the years as far as the entertainment value of it. And we'll get into it. We'll do kind of a retrospective and kind of a review. Maybe we'll go through the movie kind of in blocks and talk about it sequentially, and then get into what our feelings are about it as we go along. Because it's a what was it, 90 minutes or something?
It's not very
pretty
long.
Standard. Yeah, so you can get through it pretty quick,
Right.
And it just hits the ground running, and we all have feelings and thoughts on it. And what about you, Jim? How do you look back on it when you watched it recently?
Well, it's fun because it was one of these things we weren't really expecting, and being zombie fans and fans of Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. And I was a frequent reader of Fangoria and Famous Monsters and all that. And I may have caught a whiff of something that was coming, but it wasn't Romero zombies, and was like, I'm not interested in that. And then this movie drops, and it had a little extra attention at our theater because we were given buttons to wear and
I forgot about that.
yeah, and posters to pass out. So
I
we got
remember
a little
the
extra
posters,
promo.
This guy.
This guy
right
here. Right.
Yeah.
Opening everywhere August 16. Same day as Year of the Dragon.
Hey, no offense. I like that movie, man.
I know.
Yeah.
They got Connie.
I like that movie. Michael Cimino director, but I like that movie a lot. Anyway.
Yeah. That's funny. It came out the same day.
And Mark, what are your thoughts? Just in remembrance.
It's so my first thought is this. I was a hardcore Romero fan and I shunned anything else. I was like, how dare you? You know?
You guys are big into Romero back then too.
Yeah.
I think Day came out though right after this.
Yeah.
Like within a month or something.
And I was just not, I didn't want anything else that wasn't Romero. So that's my thought process. That's what I did. And then I watched it and I was like, this thing is nothing like Romero and it's fun as hell. Like I'm glad it was nothing like Romero because it was so fun. It was so entertaining. And like Bob just said, or whatever, you could blow through it in 90 minutes. It's not very long. And once it starts, starts, then you got to catch your breath because it doesn't stop. And I want to say this first. I need to start this. At the time, the biggest grievance that I think a lot of us had being Romero fans was the zombies. Because there's two things that came out of that. One, no disrespect to Mr. Zack Snyder, but the zombies ran. They had full functions. They could talk, right? Yeah, they talked. Yeah, I remember that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they had full functions, and they could run after you. And there was nothing scarier than it. Like, that's what I was like, holy crap. That made it scary for the horror people. And the second one is, I'm not trying to steal any of your guys' thunder, is that whole, it birthed the brains movement. So I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Right.
But that's my first thoughts on it. That's what, I'm glad I wasn't a stick in the mud and a shit heel and didn't like.
Yeah, I'm glad we were all down with it when it came out. It has a way of escalating, which is I kind of noticed it watching it this time. That it just continues to escalate, and that's what is interesting about it. It takes a little bit of a dip in the middle when they're well, we'll get into it, but it takes a little dip in the middle, but then it ramps up again once the zombies come out. So it definitely ramps the whole all the way through. And something that I've always loved about it too is kind of the punk rock angle of it. That the soundtrack was such a unique soundtrack that I didn't know much about punk rock music around that era.
Right.
And it kind of it gets you into that vibe of the movie because the kids that are involved in the movie, this group of friends, are all kind of like this weird cast of punk rocks and new wave people mixed. It was kind of an interesting time period for that.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah,
everything could have been just a new wave and very tacky and 80s, but the punk rock angle kind of gives it a timeless feel, I think. Just the outfits they wore with the leather and chains and things, and Trash with her slutty outfit and all that. And
I said it has a very anti-John Hughes.
Yeah.
Cast,
yeah.
Right?
For an 80s movie.
For an 80s movie.
Like the guy who wore the tie, him and
Chuck.
him and the other girl that Chuck, Casey. They were your new waivers. Like they looked like they could step into a John Hughes movie, but they were they're cool with the other dude with the leather coat and all those guys, and
Suicide,
like they're cool with them,
Yeah.
and they're friendly banter back and forth. So I do think that was ahead of its time. That you didn't get that separation that you saw in a lot of movies. Like this movie is about these jocks and about these guys and stuff. They were all thrown together. And then, when your boy shows up with the chains and stuff, I was like, oh, okay, they're adding a whole nother element to it, So,
he's great.
Yeah, but I like how they did that.
There's that group of friends of
Freddie.
Freddie kind of is the he's branching off into wanting to work at the medical supply, which we start the movie with. This you need a medical supply. Freddie's the friend of the group who's taking a job. So Freddie's the friend who is taking this summer job, and then the friends we meet are Suicide, who drives the car, the convertible beat up car with all the spray paint on it. And I guess his girlfriend is Trash. I'm always assumed that they were together.
I don't think so. I don't know.
I don't think so.
He snubs her quite a bit in the movie,
Yeah, it's weird.
But he's also can't quite
figure out.
This is what I'm about. You're all fucking me up, and you only call me when you need my car. Like he's an angry dude.
Good character.
Yeah,
he's such a good character because he's this very deep, introspective,
he's into it.
Punk rocker, and he's like, this isn't just a costume. He's like, this is a way
of life.
And he tells everybody that, and he gets mad throughout the whole movie. He's mad because they're like, "You only call me when you need the car." Yeah, and you don't have this.
The actor does such a great job.
Oh my God! Yeah, they do fill their roles really, really well. Whoever they got, kudos to the casting director that they just didn't get some schlubs for background. They're all really into their roles.
Rounding out the group is Spider, we have this. He's a friend who's black. Scuzz, who's the Mohawk guy, and we said Freddie and Casey are kind of the new wave-ish. A little bit of a dipping into. And Tina, who's like the total outsider because she's this, Pollyanna.
She's very Valley Girl-ish.
Preppy.
She's not so dippy.
Like she's the I'm non-threatening 80s princess little girl, which in this movie, she's way out of place. But her role fits.
She would not be hanging with this group if it wasn't for Freddie.
Freddie, right.
So Freddie's the glue that connects this whole group. Yeah.
And despite that, like those outfits that they wear, guys, go pause the movie or pause our podcast, go watch the movie and look at the outfits these guys are all wearing. It's like a superhero team with their different costumes. Like they're all got to match their personalities really, really well. And they're all acceptance of each other because she is a quintessential 80s normal girl. I get all A's in schools. That's the vibe you're going to get from her. You know what I mean? The socks up over the pants. Right. I thought I noticed that with her tennis shoes. She pulled
peg pants,
socks up over the pants, which was a big thing for anybody who didn't live in the 80s.
A lot of flaps and buttons.
Yeah, my wife said she had jeans like those.
Yeah, did she? Oh, my God. That's great.
According to now, a lot of this stuff I'm going to reference is from the documentary that's on the Shout Factory Blu-ray release. They have a really like an hour and a half long documentary on it, and they interview the cast. And she said, the actress played Tina. At first, they wanted her to wear kind of like this plastic mini skirt and all this, and she wasn't feeling it. And then she saw an outfit that Miguel Nunez, who plays Spider, was wearing, and that's the outfit she ends up wearing. He supposedly that was his outfit he wore like a week before or something like that. It's some odd. It's like the weirdest thing, but
there's a really cool kind of iconic for me group shot of them walk as a group walking down the street with the graffitied wall behind them. I mean,
the tracking shot.
Reservoir Dogs. It's like a tracking shot.
Oh my God,
just,
yeah.
Trying to figure out what we're going to do tonight.
So who directed the movie?
Yeah, let's get back to a little bit of the origin real quick, right?
Yeah, the movie is directed by Dan O'Bannon. If anybody knows him, his name is most associated with Alien. Him and Ron, I think, Shusett, they're the guys that wrote Alien. So he was into this type of genre because, and this is, I'm going to just briefly touch on it. So George Romero had a partner whose name was John Russo. And John Russo is the guy that he wanted to do more Living Dead, if you will. But George was like, this is what the direction we're going in. And he's like, yeah, but what about this kind of stuff? So he just kind of branched off and did his own thing. And the world is better for it. So John Russo wrote the original screenplay for Night of the Living Dead. So he'd already been through all of that and wanted to go down a different road.
What I understand is Romero they had a legal battle, right, about it. And
Romero stuff is The Dead, and Russo stuff is The Living Dead.
Is Living Dead, yeah, The Living Dead. And there's no animosity. If you listen to those guys later on in years, they don't bark at each other. Yeah, so they're not, bitching that they had to go through that. But for that movie to come out around what was going on, that was very, very different from what was out there.
Tobe Hooper was supposed to direct it, but he couldn't because I guess Life Force was in the works.
Oh my God.
It would have been interesting if Tobe Hooper would have got his
hands on that. Tobe Hooper's really got a
director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, yeah.
And my beloved Salem's Lot. So that's where I go to that one stuff, yeah. And folks, if you haven't seen Life Force, stop the podcast. Go watch Life Force, man. That's
great. It's crazy and it's great.
Yeah. And that's based on, I think, a novel called The Space Vampires, if I'm not mistaken. But Tobe Hooper get a hold of that thing, and man, that's got some good stuff in it, too. Anyway.
The script was in the works with Russo, right? I guess he wrote a novel or a book or something about the story, but then I think O'Bannon got commissioned to sharpen it up.
The original novel is more, I had read it, is more like Night of the Living Dead. It deals with a bus crash that happens, and then, it takes place 10 years after Night of the Living Dead. By the time it gets to, it gets purchased, the title gets purchased, and it gets through the, O'Bannon's like, yeah, no, we're going to do something different with this.
He comes on and he's like, we need to bring it into the modern times. But he was very open to listening to his cast because, and this was, it's going to sound weird now, but it was new ground. It was new ground then. Like they were making something that, I know this is going to sound cliche, that hadn't been made before. They hadn't introduced a fast-running zombie. Yeah. They hadn't introduced the brains thing. They hadn't introduced, like the Breakfast Club was a couple years or 2 years before, I think, or same year, 84. Same year?
Same year.
So, it was like, okay, we're going to trash all of that. They were really just breaking ground after ground after ground as they were doing that.
Yeah, they broke new ground and they, they broke rules for zombies and they set up new ones.
Yeah, and like I said, he listened to everybody. And if I can, I'm again not trying to take away anybody's thunder. James Cameron and The Ring. I don't know if you guys know about that. It was his. It was his idea to take the ring off and place it on the thing and ask for forgiveness. And Dan O'Bannon was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." He's like, "Yes, let's go ahead and do that." So,
supposedly he didn't want to take part in the rain scenes. He's like, "No, I'm not doing that."
came up with his own death, and which was pretty cool.
Yeah,
It was a
absolutely.
nice
I think
twist.
that's great. And it did work, even if he was trying to get out of doing something else, but it did work. I think we should pause here just for a second because, like,
Okay.
you can tell as we're talking, folks, I'm smiling throughout the whole thing because I can't, you got to go watch it. The ensemble of not necessarily the teenagers, they are kind of the typical teenagers. The ensemble adult cast, if you're not laughing at the silliness of the absurd situation that they're trying to deal with, yeah, the movie's not for you. It's just not because like James Karen and I don't know the other guy's name, like they steal the show.
Klug Gulager.
Klug Gulager, and then the Nazi guy, the German guy, excuse me.
Don Kalfka.
Yeah, Don Kelfka. Like they were just like, this is the best thing ever, and you can tell. You can tell by their performances.
You talk about someone who grabs onto a role like a pit bull, and like they were just like they were getting every ounce of
God.
fun and acting out of their roles. It was just, it's amazing. The three of them, the guys, and I'm going to call them kind of the boomers in this movie because they're the older group and they screw everything up from the get go. And
they do. They do.
It gets worse and worse and worse.
He's the adult of the situation, but he messes it up the most.
God damn it,
yeah,
Frank.
like he's the
boss. Yeah.
He's the boss, acting the boss, which is great. But he maintains kind of this cool throughout the whole thing, even though every time he touches something, it goes awry. And you think somebody would have been like, get out of there. Like, what are you doing?
So to kind of get us into the first chunk, Freddy's working for Frank at the Unita Medical Supply, and in a cool part, Frank is kind of teaching him the ropes, and Freddy's kind of interested in the cadaver, and then all of a sudden a discussion about, hey, did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead? Which I think is a cool thing that's like a movie inside the movie.
Yeah, inside a movie.
Super meta back then. I mean, who saw that coming? Yeah.
They referenced it. No.
Reference to Night of the Living Dead.
Referenced it. So it's kind of cool that it's like, well, it's not really a sequel, but it's in this universe where that movie exists. So that's a really cool thing.
Right.
And he talks about, you want to see the bodies in the basement that the government accidentally shipped. The corpses with the face and all that.
There's the first one.
They go down.
The corpses. Oh, my God.
He makes this face. It's funny. They go down and see the tanks. And then he's like, oh, yeah, Freddy's worried that something's going to happen with the corpses. And, oh, no, these are government issued. And he hits it, and all this gas comes out. And that kicks off the movie that this 2,4,5 trioxin gas comes out, and
why is that not more?
With the great theme song.
Oh my God!
Reanimates the dead creatures.
Yeah, that theme song. As soon as they get hit with the gas, that's when that theme song kicks in.
And there's a great shot of that cadaver in the meat locker, and it starts like it's all jittering and stuff hanging, and it's like there's some really good cinematography. I have to admit, there's some high angle shots and different angles and things. It's really well done. Well
it starts
executed.
out, and he's giving him the tour of the facilities. It's like a one big long shot for the longest time until they go into the meat locker.
Right. Well, that shot
is pretty impressive.
The cadaver, I like that the camera is back technically where the door would be, and it just zooms while it's all shaking and moaning and doing whatever and stuff, and you're like, oh my God. So
hilarity ensues when they call Bert Frank.
Like he takes a little drink and he's like,
takes a drink, he puts the phone down, he wipes himself off as if he could compose himself. Bert, we have a bit of a situation.
Bert shows up, and then they hear the screaming, and everything's coming. The split dogs on the shelves are coming alive. Butterflies are coming alive on the little.
That's such a nice touch with the butterflies. It's real subtle. You'll miss it if you don't look. You don't look to see it.
Yeah, because Freddy's talking, and it's off to it's on the right shot of the screen.
Yeah,
they don't focus on it a lot and stuff. So
one of my favorite things in the sequence before all this, I think it's after, because they have to get the cadaver. They want to kill the cadaver because it's screaming. It came alive.
They had a makeup issue when they were making it, to the point where they fired the first guy and they got a second crew in.
Yeah, well,
he wasn't really kind of deliver
Didn't quite work out the way Dan wanted it.
how they wanted it, and for the better that
Right. Like he said, for hilarity ensues, there's a lot of little tiny buildup. The split dogs, they beat it with the crutch.
Right.
They don't ever address it after. They don't address it after that. They just move on to the next thing. And then when whatchamacallit shows up, I like he's giving orders to his two subordinates, thinking that
he's formulated a plan.
Yeah, he's formulated a plan.
Here's a pickaxe. Now brain him when it comes out.
It's so funny because watch when he brings it into the shot. It's like it comes in at the full shot. He gives it to Frank, and he's like, "I can't do this." He's like, "You're gonna have to do this." And dude, it's just comical.
On, Frank,
well, the thing that they said, they were talking about. Well, they didn't bring it up yet because of the brain thing. They hadn't really formulated that plan yet. I don't think. They were just gonna. Oh no, they were gonna. They were like, yeah, they did.
Oh yeah, they were gonna hit him in the brain.
They were gonna hit him in the brain because they were following the formula of Night of the Living Dead.
That's how they do it in the movie.
That's how they do it in the movie and stuff. Yeah, he goes and stands on the other side of the warehouse, thinking he's gonna let these two guys do it. As soon as that fucking door is open, that cadaver runs right at him, and it's butt ass naked. You don't see nothing, but you barely see its face, but it's hilarious because it tackles him, and he goes, "Ah!"
He's like, "Ah!"
Oh my god, it is so amazingly funny. And the other two guys are like, "What the fuck? What are we doing?" Because it's trying to choke Bert. Oh my god.
So they get him. And first, they brain him with the pickaxe. And
stick him to the floor.
He's still alive. And then Bert gets like a bone saw and starts cutting his head off.
Oh my god!
And then you hear like the worst sound effect. The vocal cords, worst by meaning it's the greatest.
He's cutting from the back of the neck, folks. So as it's struggling,
Frank's like, "Oh Jesus! Oh Jesus!"
This dude. He is lost. And he's like, "Oh god, Jesus!" And they're trying to hold this squirming corpse down, but when he gets through the head, that bitch pops right back up and keeps on going. Oh my god! I do like how they didn't really show you, like they tackle him like they had enough, I guess, gumption to be like, let's tackle him, and then you hear him say, "Somebody get a rope."
Sequence was storyboarded really well when they put it together.
It worked in the movie.
You mean the movie lied?
You mean the movie lied?
By the way, folks, let me pause and insert this right here. So in our zeitgeist over the next 40 years, Return of the Living Dead quotes will come up regularly in the weirdest moments or the sound effects or ever. And we have sustained as if it was nourishing food for the last 40 years for that. And then Bob's got two that we haven't kind of come to them yet, but one is in this sequence, the most famous one. And Bob, he said this his whole life because they were trying to figure out what to do with the cadaver. And one of the characters puts forth the solution, and then Ernie is like, "It's not a bad question, Bert." And it's pretty much, it's been able to be an answer for everything in our lives over the next 40 years. So that's not a bad question, Bert. And I've heard it before elsewhere. So we are not the only ones that grabbed onto that, but I've heard it before elsewhere.
Not a bad question, Bert.
Not a bad question, Bert.
Before we leave the sequence, I just have to reference the Eye Chart that's in the office.
Oh yes, the
behind them when they're talking.
I don't know if Mark knows.
It says Bert is a slave driver.
Yeah.
And a son of a bitch who is also going bald or something like that. It's so funny to read it.
This is pre-digital times. Like, you're not going to be able to read that and see that. I mean, we'd have to wait until VHS to look at that.
If you were working a shift at the movie theater, you would have seen it 3 times a day.
Yeah. So maybe you could pull all of it out there if you're writing it down, or it could be like, okay, wait.
And trust us as ushers, this is one of those movies you go stand in the back of, until someone makes you come out and do your job.
Yeah, makes you clean the theater. Yeah.
Right.
Where's Bob at? I'll give you 2 guesses. You're only going to need 1.
Right. And there was a portion before this scene with Freddy was complaining, and Frank tells him, "You better watch your mouth, boy, if you like this job." And he's like this job? It's like,
That's a great line too.
Just to let you know, folks, James Caron and Tom Matthews enjoyed this so much that they came along and did a sequel, Return of the Living Dead 2, which is an abomination. But
Unfortunately.
with the exception of them.
Yeah, but they enjoyed each other's camaraderie and characters so much that they agreed to do a sequel. And we won't talk about that sequel. But
and they used the like this job line in there as well. So
we moved the story along. They decided to chop up the corpse because it's already, they can't handle this big cadaver. So they chop it up. Give me the bone saw. So then they're going to chop it up and take it over to his buddy at the Resurrection Mortuary, which is an awesome name if you put it in context of the movie. And it's Ernie Bruner or something like that. It's a German name.
German name. Like,
it's a German name.
As German as you can make it.
I think it's an actual Nazi name, I think. Yeah.
I think he's a...
Yeah, they were going all in on this.
The prevailing theory nowadays is that he is an escaped war criminal.
Right.
Well, he's got a poster of Eva Braun and Hitler, like, in the background.
Yeah,
and he's listening to, like,
German music,
Wagner in his headphones. Yeah. And he has a German Luger gun.
And if you also turn subtitles on, he actually speaks in German about some of the things he'll say in German and stuff. So, but that has all come out actually recently. I didn't put that together early on. I really didn't.
No, not in its original run. No. The worst thing we'd seen so far was the tar man melting inside the canister.
Yeah,
the beginning credits. Right. That and the severing.
And the cadaver.
But the severing of the cadaver's head is a little comical because there's no blood.
There's no blood, and he's making that. Right. What did you just do?
Like,
so there's no blood and stuff.
So gross. So they come over to Ernie's mortuary where he's embalming this cadaver, I guess, or dead body on his autopsy table, and they come in and surprise him, and then he doesn't. He's trying to you can't come in here. And then they all kind of like, I need your help, buddy. You got to help me get rid of this. And they bring in this stretcher full of plastic bags and it's all chopped up.
And they're moving.
Cadaver, and they try to...
They're wiggling around.
Bert tries Bert, the manager, tries to pass it off as they're rabid weasels. And Ernie's like, well, let's just take them out and shoot them. I mean, he's like, well, I can't. We gotta do something more than that. And then they want to put them in the incinerator, and he's like, you can't put live animals. He gives
them like 5 good ideas on what to do with it. We'll take them to animal control. We'll do this. Well, nobody care if your business is a contaminated shipment.
And Bert ain't having it. Bert ain't having any of them. Well. Now. We just can't do that. He doesn't even think about the options. He's just like, no, we can't do it. And again, Bert doesn't ever lose his cool. Really, he just kind of keeps it middle of the road.
He's trying to work. He's trying to work the situation.
Like there's got to be a good way out of this, even though we all know there is not.
He doesn't want to get to the news and the police and get embarrassed.
Put me out of business.
Embarrass his company. Right. Finally, they show Ernie a bag, and it's an arm, and the arm grabs onto his pant leg, and he's like, "Get this thing off me!" And then they have to tell him, "Cross your heart, we're going to tell you this what really happened, but you're going to owe me a big." And he's like, "Well, Ernie's like, you're going to owe me a big favor for this." And
and by the way, Bert and Ernie have known each other. They specified they've known each other for 25 years, folks. Like that's the enduring friendship in the movie. So it's not like they went to a rando guy's business.
The cool part of this, though, is that we start to see Frank and Freddie getting the effects of the 2,4,5-trioxin, where they're starting to look a little pale and they're getting a little weaker and
cough,
a little weird looking. And that's a cool aspect of this whole thing, is that they're being infected and kind of turning, which was another thing. I don't know if that was really a thing in zombie movies where people would
I don't know not that way, because
we had a little bit in Roger and
Dawn
of the Dead, right? He turned. We got to see him turn,
right? But but the cool thing about it is these guys they're background characters as we're focusing now on this part, and so you're not paying attention.
They're not bit.
They're not bit. They just got hit with the gas, so you're not really paying attention because they don't. You kind of hear that one tells the other one, I don't feel so good, but you just chalk it off that they got a mouthful of that gas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And you don't pay attention to it until they really want to say, here, we have to focus on this now and
Right.
stuff. So, Tina.
So in the background, we're following Freddy's friends who are waiting for him to get off work, and they end
Meanwhile-
up, let's go in this cemetery and goof around, and they go,
Yeah.
like what punk kids would do in that time period or whatever, and go hang out in the cemetery, and they bust into this resurrection cemetery and start hanging out, and that's where we get one of the most infamous scenes of the whole movie. So Trash starts having this, have you ever fantasized about being killed?
I
And all
hate
this,
that. I hate
But
that.
Everybody's like, no.
Yeah, everybody's like, no, dude.
no,
you're too...
no one's ever fantasized.
Yeah, why are you in our group? You are too dark for us. Yeah.
I know, she's dark, and she starts getting into this thing, and then she like starts ripping off her clothes and does like a dance, and she must do it all the time because they're like, Trash is taking her clothes off.
Yeah, that's funny. You can hear that, and that's off screen. That's not even like one of the characters doesn't even get a shot of that. You can just hear it in the background going, she's taking off her clothes again. Better get over here.
So she must do this on a regular basis or
Right.
something or whatever, but she gets up on there and starts dancing around nude, and as a young
Here it comes. Here it comes.
adolescent, it was quite a shot of full frontal nudity dancing around. You're like, whoa,
that
what
was
is going
pretty
on?
shocking. I gotta admit, at the time, like no internet, none of that. So to see that on the screen, you're like, whoa,
It's
whoa.
pretty shocking.
There's
So-
folks, if you really want to read it, go read into that scene and the background between her and was it Casey's character?
Jules Shepard is the actress, yeah.
One was supposed to have each other's roles and stuff, and when it came up to it, they cast was it the Casey girl first? Am I even saying her name right? Is that the character?
Yeah, she was in real life, she was strip dancing at a club that Dan O'Bannon went to, I guess, and that's how he met her. And
Why would you even want that story to come out?
Research.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they do say, though, he would come in there and he wasn't really paying attention to the show. Like, he would come in there with notepads and, would just do his own thing and stuff. And so maybe he found it really relaxing.
he was a little unorthodox, I'd have to say.
An
Because
interesting
the
cat,
story
for
from
certain.
Tina, when Tina got auditioned,
Oh, that's a
Tina
weird
was
story.
going. Yeah, she got invited to his house or apartment or house, and goes there, and she goes in, and there's like a gun on the table, and there's like weird what she called like porn on the TV, and he's in the other room, and she's like, well, I gotta go, I got something's come up, and it's like, and then she found out later that he collected guns, so it was kind of like his thing, but.
Right.
That's some weird stuff. That came out now. Oh, my God. Yeah, he'd be done.
Well, we have to bring up the elephant in the room, I guess, about this really unfortunate part of the movie that affects a lot of things, I guess, in the future. But it was the character of Scuzz, played by Brian Peck, that I didn't realize he was who he was until I researched. I saw that he was in The Last American Virgin, and I thought, I remember that movie. I looked it up, and then all of a sudden I get a flood of things about how he's involved in that Netflix documentary on Nickelodeon and all the abuse scandal from Drake Bell, which was really unfortunate. And it's him. We really don't have to get into all that, but it does put a little bit of a cloud on this, but I think he's far enough extracted from the main cast and everything that you could kind of not think about that and still enjoy the movie, but we have to bring it up because it is what it is, and it's unfortunate.
I mean, it's a character that you know what I mean? Like, you're not associating it with modern times. So I was able to push it out. Like, it didn't affect my viewing. Even with the character on screen, I was like, I was able to enjoy the movie with that.
So we'll leave it at that, and we'll move on. We don't want it to bring down the whole movie, because the people who are in the movie shouldn't be punished for what he did later in his life.
Yeah, throw everything out just because of one person.
Right.
Back to the good stuff, because we'll just put that garbage, because that guy was garbage.
When we last left our punks, they were partying at the graveyard.
Right.
Trash was coming on to suicide, and he was like, some respect for the dead. Put some clothes
Kudos
on.
to that guy for having just the willpower of a Green Lantern. He's like, what are you doing?
He's like having a soliloquy out there, on the existential life of being a punk, and
Trash is
it's almost
just
like he's
she's
in his own
butt naked
movie.
and she's rubbing up
Oh,
and
she's
down on him.
groping
You know?
him.
Yeah, and he's saying certain words, and she'll be like, "I like spooky."
Yeah,
Right.
He's like, "What do you think this is? This ain't a
it's
costume."
great.
But she's like, "I like spooky."
Yeah.
He's like, "Fuck is wrong with you?" So he actually tells her he has some respect for the dead, and he kind of shoves her away.
So back in the mortuary, they get Ernie to use the big incinerator to put all the parts in and to hit the incinerator. And Frank has a little bit of a foreshadowing saying, big favor, I could operate that son of a bitch, so something's up with Frank and thinking about this incinerator. And we'll come back to that. They incinerate all these parts, all the smoke goes out the chimney. All of a sudden it causes a rainstorm. Rain turns into like acid rain.
Yeah, it
which,
burns the skin.
Falls our team group, and it gets into the ground and starts reanimating all the dead bodies in the cemetery.
Yeah, that's where
this is where the movie really kicks in.
I was gonna say, because they're not. Yeah, the music kicks in. They're trying to run the Suicide's car, and they're like, "Get the hood up and stuff," and they're kind of okay. And folks, what's funny, if you kind of remember your timeline, like Trash is still naked. Nobody's giving her. I think she ends up with a shirt at some point. But like the friends are all like, "I don't give an F. It's raining. I'm getting out of the rain." I just thought that was absolutely hilarious.
Right, and the car doesn't start, so they can't escape. So then they have to run, and then they see that they all run back in the cemetery, and then that's when they see the skeleton come up, and "Do you want a party?" kicks in.
Yeah.
All mayhem ensues with all the zombies coming out of the ground, a la Thriller.
And what I believe to be the most accurate representation of a zombie apocalypse, they all fucking run everywhere. They don't stay together as a group. They don't look out for each other.
Right.
And whoever's kind of paired with whoever, they just take off. I think there's 3 different little groups that, they just take the fuck off and leave trash behind in the cemetery.
They get split up. The group gets split up, and a few get back into You Need a Medical Supply, and then
So Tina actually runs over to Unita looking for Freddy. She's trolling around, and they pay attention to this third step so much. Like every time you get a scene of that staircase,
it's Chekhov's step.
So she goes downstairs, and you get the most infamous line in almost all movies. She pulls that curtain back, and there's the fucking tar man. And whoever's playing him, great. Oh my God, great job for that guy. And he looks at Tina, and he's got this weird neck thing, and he just says brains to her, and they get that rack focus thing, that Spielberg shot.
Zombie. Yes. Yeah. Such an iconic zombie.
Runs up the stairs, falls through the stairs. The things chase her up the stairs. Look like Dave Chappelle, just kind of doing this weird walk.
Well, he's got the
he's got this weird walks, like back, forth, back,
Gangly,
forth.
Yeah.
Then she falls through. He just turns around, starts coming downstairs. Same walk. She goes in the closet, and the only thing I don't like, he takes that chain.
She locks herself in a cabinet.
Yeah, cabinet. And he takes a chain.
This is where our zombies are different because they think now, right?
Yeah, maintain thoughts in life. But that's when the group finally makes its way. Almost the entire group finally makes its way to You Need a Medical Supply. They see the chain. It pulls the doors off. Unfortunately, Suicide is what is going on. Pulls the curtain back.
He gets the brunt of it.
And they're all like, wow. And that, I guess he's called the Tar Man because he was nicknamed by Spider later in the movie, though.
Right. Yes, later in the
This
movie,
is the first time they all see him, and he grabs Suicide, and he literally bites into his skull. And like an apple. And a true reaction by the entire team. Like there's a horrified look. And Nunez, or Spider, he gets that can of paint, throws it at him. I like that. I don't know if that was scripted or not, but I like that he throws it at him, and then it looks at the group, and he's all more brains. They hightail it the fuck out of there, yeah. So I thought that was great. And then that's what Bob was talking about.
This time the zombies are coming.
Everybody's coming.
Are coming to,
and the group runs to the embalming place and stuff. By the way, side note, Trash has been killed by this point because all the old men in the cemetery.
We lose her on the way to the embalming.
Yeah,
place.
yeah, and she doesn't know what to do. She falls in a puddle, and just all the zombies end up eating her. They attack her and they start to eat her.
I don't know what they all put old age makeup on her face.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, she's got that weird makeup. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, I have a problem with. We'll get to her.
Yeah, there's a few plot holes that I brought up for this discussion, like the dude.
Yeah, that one I could
the
see.
dude
as a
that gets
hole.
bit in the head.
Scuzz.
Scuzz.
Yeah.
He doesn't ever return. He doesn't come back. So yeah, throughout the whole
That's
movie,
true.
he never comes back.
That's a good
Suicide
point.
never comes back throughout the whole movie. So
The guy on the embalming table never comes back.
he never came back either. But so is it if you were exposed? Well, no, it's a plot hole.
Oh,
folks.
he didn't get exposed.
Yeah,
he didn't get exposed to the gas.
Right, but all the teenagers did. So why Trash comes back,
Right.
but nobody else does? I'm not sure there's an explanation for that.
Well, they had to have a cool naked zombie chick.
Right. With zero scars.
She has no bite
So
marks.
apparently they just
But a messed up face.
They just drowned her in the mud.
Yeah, but her face is really, the makeup on her is really like, wow.
Right. She looks like an albino gozer or something.
I don't know if that's the same actress that is
Got
doing
this
that.
jaw. That's his big jaw.
It is. It's the same actress. They just put makeup on her, yeah.
Wow. She's got that funny walk when she comes after the homeless guy.
Oh,
though.
the sauntering. She's all.
Yeah, it's all like, what? Like, that's why I was like, is that her or not?
Right. So Casey and Chuck, they get left in Unita. There's a great shot of a zombie busting through a window in the office of Frank's office. I love that shot of that zombie.
That's as soon as they run in, too.
Window,
Like, he grabs that phone, dude. I got to admit, that's got to be one of those scenes that they weren't expecting it. Because their reaction, like, it just really looks genuine. Like, he goes to pick that phone up, and when that dude comes through the glass, he's like, he throws everything, man. And he runs the F out of there and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's some zombie scenes that really stuck in my head. I'll get to one here in a minute. When back to the mortuary, when the group split up and they meet Ernie, Frank, Bert. Freddie and Bert are the ones turning.
Freddie and Frank.
Tina sees Freddie, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And what have you done to him? And all
so
this. And
pause. That's my biggest complaint to the movie, and I don't have hardly any. But her reaction in the face of horror at what's happening to Freddie and how she berates the old guys, like I think one of them would have walked over and slapped her. You know what I mean? Like it's really, what have you done to him? Okay, there's people coming up out of the ground with corpses, but what have I done to Freddie? You know. So it's just, she kind of goes into that princess mode, you know, the damsel in distress mode.
Right.
Before the kids get to Freddie, the friends, they call the paramedics, and the paramedics come to the mortuary. And this was before we got to backtrack a little bit. The paramedics come before the zombies bust out because they're able to come into the mortuary and walk in and what's going on? How did he get poisoned? Why don't you have any information? Your friend's dying. And they're trying to keep it a secret, and they're checking their vital signs. And there's like, well, what's his temperature? And he's like 72 or whatever. And it's like, what's that room temperature? And he's got no pulse. And Freddie, what do you mean no pulse? He's got the thermometer.
James Cameron, Tom Matthews, man, even playing characters who are dying. What do you mean?
What do you mean no pulse?
Every time they are on, they steal the show. Like, it's just fantastic. Those four guys, man. Sorry.
And you feel bad for them, you know?
Yeah, you didn't get nothing.
Right, you're
you feel very sympathetic for them.
Yeah, because you had, like, I had assumed when I saw Freddie, and like, no bullshit, Freddie, oh, that's the hero of the movie. This is what's going to happen stuff. No, not even. Talk about subversion, man. That's awesome.
So the paramedics go to leave or they're going to take them to the hospital or whatever, and they go to their truck and they get attacked by the zombies, and that's when the full-on attack happens. And that's when the gore ramps up with this attack on these paramedics. I mean, they get tore up.
Oh, there's some foreshadowing in there by Ernie when he talks about rigor mortis, and remember the dead guy on the table?
Oh, yes.
He's telling Bert about what rigor mortis is, and then he's the one that notices the two guys. He's like, stiff, how do you mean, Freddie? He's like, I can't this and my muscles that. Yeah. And he's like, it sounds like rigor mortis. And they're right in the same room. So Freddie's like, rigor mortis? What do you mean rigor mortis? Like, he starts freaking out. And it's kind of funny. But I only reference that because
payoff for that.
When Ernie wants to look at him, there is the worst sound. Like when he sits him up to look at his back, it's bones breaking is what it is. So, and it took me years to realize that, but that he had rigor mortis. And so when they sat him up to look at him, that noise that you're hearing is Freddy's bones kind of doing, snapping or whatever and stuff. And it's oh God, that is gross, dude.
And
They lift the shirt up and he's like all
blood pooling.
The blood pooling, and he's just like rigor mortis. Rigor mortis.
It's a great example of that. Yeah, it's a great example of an info dump earlier that really comes back to pay off plot wise, right? So
you're one of those things. You're dead.
That's the best line he's ever going to get. You're dead, man. But that's a natural reaction, I think. And what's his name? Scuzz or what is he? Scuzz. Yeah. Scuzz will get. They will get him. So he will get his, folks.
So then we get the full on zombie attack. After that, right? And then they try to the zombie. One of the most famous parts of the zombie going to the CB or whatever, saying send more paramedics. So right there, we're like, man, these guys are like these zombies are thinking ahead to get more
terrible. Food. What a sense of dread,
and,
folks! Like you're watching a movie, you're waiting for a bright point when the dude's like, send more paramedics. Oh my God.
And then the paramedics come, and then the guys, our group in the mortuary is looking out, and they're here, and they're like walking slowly, and you're like, here they come, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, all these zombies are like, ah!
The EMS reports them
they're gone.
Missing.
They're dead.
So you're kind of getting some back and forth with the characters. They got to board everything up naturally, as in every zombie movie, but Ernie says everybody who comes here, or it could be Bert, I apologize. But he's like, everybody who comes here is dead. Like everybody, there's no hope for them. It's a trap. Yeah. Like, and you figure out, oh yeah, because the zombies they're laying a trap. They got on the horn, send more paramedics. They went away. They came back, tackled those guys.
And the police come, same thing. Same thing with the police.
And then you have that 1812, War of 1812 guy. That's the guy that says, send more cops. Like he gets on there and says, "Send more cops." Does he know what
a cop is?
I don't. Yeah, that's a weird one. But he's the one that says, "Send more cops," and
maybe he heard somebody
all the
yelling.
Cops. Yeah, there's two scenes that around this time, and I'm not sure it's around all the attacks.
Well, there's the little guy.
That's the one. That's the one with Ernie, and you don't realize that this dude's got. He's got what? No arms and legs, I guess, or is it just no legs?
He's like an amputee, right?
I think he's got like one arm. He's a little
arm and
it's Ernie that shoots him because Ernie goes outside and looks. Yeah. So Ernie shoots him, and folks, if you're not expecting it, I can still recall the theater. It gets the biggest laugh in the theater because he flops over, and that's when you realize he's got, one arm. Yeah, stumps.
Yeah, and he's like a dwarf person. I guess they found him on the streets of L.A. or something and paid him to be in this film.
When he rolls over and pops back up, dude, that was the biggest laugh in the theater. Oh my God, people love that thing.
And he kind of does like a wipeout.
Yeah, dude, they love that thing.
Yeah, got all the mud, right?
Yeah, and then the horrific scene that I was talking about is that guy that says "send more cops." Right before that, he's got, I don't even know how to explain it.
Like a watermelon.
He's got a paramedic.
Yeah, the guy's head.
And it's half gone, and he's.
What's like a?
Yeah, he's eating it like a bowl or a watermelon, and he is literally. And it's the grossest thing ever. It's so gross. Luckily, it doesn't last long.
It's all bloody.
Yeah, if you watch, you can tell it's a prop because his real scene is to get to the microphone, so he has to hold that there. But when he hits it on the ground, he mashes it. He mashes the head and everything to try to get to the thing. So you can't really tell it's a prop. I mean, in your head, but you're like, oh, he just smashed that dude's skull, like to walk over him and stuff. So it's a disturbing ass scene. That was the one that I turned away. I was like, oh my God, that is too much.
My other favorite zombie attack is, I think it's the first group of paramedics when they first get attacked, going back to the truck. The one first they flip the lights on.
Oh, they're standing there.
It illuminates like 50 zombies standing. Yeah, I always think of that when I'm in a car. All these years, when I'm in the dark and I flip on headlights, I always think of this scene.
50 people standing.
Haunting Bob forever. Oh my god!
It's always in my mind when I'm in a dark parking lot and I flip on headlights. I'm like expecting to see like 30 zombies standing in front
God
of my
forbid
car.
that ever happens.
It's always in the back of my mind. I know.
Jeez, I wish I would have known that in our youth, man. We would have set up a prank for you.
It's like a misdirection because he sees these zombies and then one just busts the hell in off the passenger side.
Yeah.
And he's just like, get me in there.
And that dude
scared
screams so loud. Like, it's weird at the base instincts.
The
paramedic. Because he's like, and then he looks at that dude busting in that side door. He is screaming so loud. Not the zombie paramedic. Because he's like, if you pause that, you're like, you know that dude was like, the 10 times characters knew that they were dead. You know, like that was that moment. Holy crap.
Just a fast-moving zombie is like, it's scary, man. And that was before 28 Days.
Oh,
and
before
all of that.
All of that, which is weird because 28 Days Later gets the credit for that. You know, like, what's his name? Danny Boyle, which is great. You know, and then Zack Snyder made his remake of Dawn of the Dead. And, you know, they keep talking about that, but I'm like, you guys never watched fucking Return of the Living Dead? Like, they did that back in the 80s, man. For 3 movies.
Where do you want to take it from here? Because pretty much it's all the zombie apocalypse coming to fruition. Basically.
Well, they can't get out.
We have to,
our heroes are trapped. They can't get out.
We have to board up the rest of the mortuary, right? We have to board up the rest of the mortuary.
Yeah, they do that.
Come in the chapel. Scuzz gets bitten.
Ernie wants to hide in the cell or the attic, and they're like, you know, screw that. I want to make a run for it.
Well, Spider and Frank get out. They're the only ones that get out. They get into a cop. Bert. They get into a
stop.
Okay.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop. Scuzz gets bitten. And what do we get from that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Right. Sorry.
One of the most famous zombies, right?
Yeah, the second most famous zombie in the movie, right? So we get the female torso zombie, and she gives us explanation as to
why
they're eating the brains. You're absolutely right. Yep.
Well, Jim, give us a quick synopsis of this half zombie because I'm sure it's right up your alley. It's the effects that you're all about, right?
Yeah, no. So it's they come up with this wonderful upper torso desiccated cadaver lady, and for whatever budget they had, she looks amazing. And they start interrogating her.
She bites Scuzz, though, right? She's the one that actually bites Scuzz.
She bites Scuzz.
And when they pull him back,
and a fountain of blood shoots off his head.
Oh, great effect, folks. Like, he's got this stream, and when they pull him back, it sprays everywhere like a hose. Oh, my God. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So they find out from the cadaver that they tie her up, and they find out from her that
well, Ernie wants to examine it.
They eat
right? It's Ernie who's like really
he's the one who's once she was in there.
Yeah.
And when they brought her into the mortuary, he took like a big a pike or something and stabbed her.
Right.
So she's not going to go anywhere. So
nobody else is trying to figure out what's going on.
They're like, kill it.
Yeah. But he takes that moment to pause. I really like that where he's like, look, she's fine.
As someone who would work in the death industry, right?
Yeah.
Who would be interested in all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she reveals to them that they can feel themselves decaying.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right.
What are the ramifications of that too for him?
Right. So,
like all these people that he's working on, are they feeling stuff inside when they're dead and they can't talk? I mean, that's like a horrifying.
Yeah, thought. I don't know if that's kind of what she's getting at, or is it just because she got reanimated? You know what I mean?
Maybe it's because she got reanimated.
I think it's because she got reanimated. Yeah.
But she explains to them the only thing that makes them feel better and releases the pain is eating brains. Somehow, there's a chemical in brains that.
And there's never been what's the first other zombie talking was Bub, right? Pretty much in Day of the Dead. I mean, this was a talking zombie that explained what their motivation was. And
this is, you could have a conversation with this thing if you fed it.
Yeah, you could.
Like if you kept feeding it brains, like you could talk to this thing forever. That's crazy.
The pain.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Spider standing next to all this. In true fashion, he's like, I want to kill this motherfucker. Like, he is 2 seconds away each time. They got to stop him because he wants to brain it or do whatever. No pun intended, but he wants to kill it. Yeah, just get rid of her. But it's funny because he's like, kill it, man. Just kill it. you can't kill him. That's I guess that's the funny part to me, because he's like, kill her,
Right.
just kill her, And he's like, what do you want us to
You can
do?
burn her
Great
alive
scene.
Yeah.
or undead.
It was a great scene with Spider after that. He's like, that thing's all fucked up. And Ernie's like,
Oh yeah,
he
he
just slaps him.
He does. So you're right, dude, because Spider is almost the focal point for the teenagers. Like he hasn't lost it, but he's not really comprehended.
Right.
But yeah, when he loses it,
he's the man of, he's the guy who says, help me board this door for the tar man.
Yeah,
right? He's the clear thinking member
He's a man of
that
action.
group.
Yeah.
but towards the end, when this all unfurls, he finally gets his moment where he loses it, and Bert just slaps him not once.
Or
Ernie slaps him, but and it comes back
gives
the
him
other
the double
side.
slap.
Yeah, the double slap, and he's actually cool after that. Like he doesn't really do much. He's like, okay. Well, that's when they like, we got to get out of here. We can't fight this. We can't do anything about this.
Well, they separate. We need to separate Frank
and Freddy,
Freddy.
Yeah.
Just in case they get worse.
And most people don't want to, but they do. And then Tina stays in the chapel with Freddy, and they lock that because they tell her we got to lock the door.
Oh,
and then
God.
they're going to put them
about that
both
part.
in there. And then what happens is, something happens because they both die at that moment, I guess. Maybe Frank lasts a little longer.
Freddy
dies because he tries to attack Tina. And then they come in to save her because they can hear the commotion. And then
Frank.
But before that, they figure out what else can destroy a zombie is the acid.
Yeah.
How'd that go, Bob?
And that's one of my favorite lines was Ernie. They're like, "What else can we do to kill these zombies?" And he just reaches calmly. And he just pulls this like vial of acid and is like, "What about this?" He just says it so calm.
Dude, it's not Bobby's. That is perfect because this dude just. What about this? It's so freaky the way he's so super calm with this poison and stuff. And oh my God, Bob used to say it forever. Bob would take physical objects sometimes wherever we were at, and he would just have that object and turn around and be like, "What about this?" And I'm telling you, dude.
Hey Bob, you got to clean out the back room and grab some detergent or whatever. And I'd be like, "What about this?" So, yeah.
Oh my God!
That was one of my favorite lines. I had to get that in there because you got Freddy in the mortuary or the
delivery.
It's his delivery. How
absolutely.
It's like the movie paused.
Just so calm. Matter of fact.
He's like, "How about this?" Like it was like he's just a lecturer at the university. It's so calm and collected. Yeah, but that Tina and Freddy thing falls apart because he tries to kill her. He wants to eat her brain, and I noticed. When those guys, they hear the commotion, they open the door to get her, and Freddy's not in the shot. There's this wide shot. She hit him or something. She took the thing and knocked him into the pews. And it's funny because they have no idea what's going on. And Freddy pops up, and you can see their faces. They're like,
shot.
Like they're all horrified. Like, what the fuck? Like, look what he looks like.
He's
foaming
at the mouth.
Yeah. Oh my God. He's super foaming at the mouth. Like he's a threat. Like more than anything else, like this dude's a threat. He's coming for you. And then how about this? He takes that. Yeah.
Ernie has the
acid.
Thing of acid.
I forget what you call it. The flask or whatever.
And he throws it all over
jar of
Freddy's
acid.
face.
Throws it on Freddy's face. And that's what gives him all the red you see in the posters and DVD covers.
Honestly, it would have been more of it would have ate down to his skull. But I mean, I understand for the budget and makeup effects for the time,
Yeah.
But it kind of just blinds him.
Tom Matthews, though. He plays a great crazy zombie. And I just love the turn part too, where he's like, I've been waiting all these years for one thing, and that's to eat your brain. It's just it's a great turning part when he turns into a zombie. I caught Mark on a drink.
I forgot about that. He does. He builds it up like she's just stroking his hair. And he's like, eat your brains. And she,
That's the one thing I've been thinking.
Oh my God.
That could ease. There's only one thing I can think of to ease this pain. That's the eat your brains.
He's a threat, dude. Like they get the F out of there. And he starts breaking, like they said, they're like, he's coming through the door. Like they're all like,
He's like
Yeah,
a
dude,
rabid
we're outta
dog.
here.
Yeah, he's just.
That's what precipitates, though, those guys saying, we got to go. That's that whole,
Right.
you know,
That's
and
the
then
last.
whatchatcall it, when they're trying to keep Freddy
this
in.
is where Frank kills himself.
Well, they try
Right.
to keep,
No,
they
that's
take
the
that
Frank.
chair, the pew, and they're trying to keep Freddy in. They drop
Yeah.
it on Ernie's,
Yeah.
his leg, ankle,
Oh.
and it
Ernie's
breaks
ankle,
it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
he can't go with,
And he knows he's screwed.
he knows he's screwed. Oh, by the way, yeah, Jim just said, you got to, if you watch quickly, Frank is not, yeah, he sneaks off. So he's in the chapel, but he sneaks off, you know? Yeah. And he runs past everybody. And I was like, even at the time, I was like, is he a zombie now and stuff? Yeah, but I guess he's not yet. Yeah. He's not quite. He hasn't turned yet like Freddy. Freddy just gave up and died.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's
got
kind of,
enough,
but not quite.
Yeah.
And
he's got the
those
lips are fucking gross. The makeup on those lips were just every character they show this close up of the lips, it's all rotted and peeled back, and I mean, oh my god!
For the budget, it just looks so good.
Yeah, for that time,
everything's practical,
and they don't have the.
They had a lot of things working against it in its production, and they pulled out a gem.
I know, that's
really did.
What did Bob say? Lightning in a bottle or something like that. Like it's that one perfect storm, dude. Like you can't. It's very rare that you get that. And this is, thank God it was on a horror movie, because you definitely don't get these on horror movies.
So Bert, our boss, takes
Spider.
They go back to Unita.
Well,
and they meet up with.
They try to break the quarantine, because the cops have now quarantined the place.
Right. So they try to get out in the cop car, and they just can't. They're overrun. Yeah. And this is what leads us to our final part of the movie.
Well, Bob, you said earlier,
Ernie and Tina get up in the attic to hide from Freddy.
You said earlier, though, because when they overrun, there's this weird, I think we were talking about it off camera, there's this weird shot of trash. Like, she precipitates the breakout scene. There's a homeless guy, like, okay. Isn't that Dan O'Bannon, too? I heard that's a cameo by somebody, but there's a homeless guy coming out, and here's Trash walking through all the mist with her naked body, and the guy's just like, there's a naked girl coming. He doesn't say that, but he's obviously, he can't move. And they tackle him.
Might be a production artist, William Stout, who did all the really great designs for the zombies and things like that.
Well, Spider and is it Bert? Spider and Bert get back to Unita to call
Unita, right? They literally crash into the building.
Yeah, and they call the barricade, which weird connection. Like they get all the cops.
Well, what's real funny
barricade.
Is they get in there and they're like,
they call the cop station, and then the station connects.
Yeah, like
let
me transfer you to the captain. You know what's going on? We don't know what's going on. Hold up. Yeah, it's funny how he's like, hold on a second. There's a lot of noise here. And he looks out, and they're all running at him and stuff, and they do shoot.
And Trash is just like making her way through the crowd and goes directly at him.
Pause that scene where that dude's getting the hands on his head. It's going to come from the right side of the screen, but you got to slowly pause that screen of Trash. That is one of the most terrifying zombies I have ever seen, dude. She's got that distended jaw. Yeah. And she is just like jaws
on her face.
Yeah. She's just taking a bite out of that dude's face. They don't show it because he gets pulled down, but it's just scary how she comes up out of that screen like that.
There's another funny little scene where I think one of those zombies like grabs one of the cops' heads, and he just kind of goes like this and like pulls his head off. It's so crazy.
Right. He goes one way and with the head, and the body goes the other way. Yeah.
Spider's got there's a great line that we kind of we didn't talk about, but when they all kind of run into each other and stuff, and Spider's having his meltdown, trying to tell everybody what's going on. He's just like, there's 100 of those fuckers out there. And at the same time, like Burton, it's who is it? Burton, is it Ernie? I'm not sure who it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was Frank, but they just go at the same unison voice. 100? And they turn around. Because clearly up to that point, they were just like, oh, these 10 guys that we're dealing with, what are we dealing with? And Spider comes in, he's like, there's 100 of those fuckers out there. And they're just like, 100? Like, that's when Ernie's like, we got to call somebody. Something's going on. We can't do this alone.
So it leads us to our end scene, pretty much, where Ernie and Tina go in the attic.
Yeah, the embalming room. Yeah, they get up in there.
Embalming room, and then Bert and Spider make their way back to Unita, and they meet up with Casey
and
Chuck. And then that's where they have to encounter, there's like a thing in the basement, and they have to get to the phone by the tanks. And that's where they try to draw up the Tar Man. What happens, Jim, when Tar Man comes
goes right off with a baseball bat, like it's T-ball.
That's a moment where you're like, oh, like that. That's one of those moments because you're not expecting it. But they were like trying to find a weapon or something like that. Like, don't go in there, mister. We locked him in. We tried to use the phone. Right. Okay, there's one in the basement. Oh my God, don't go in there. Like, it's a double punch. Yeah, so Bert's like, what the fuck, man? Right. What is going on? But they end up going into the basement. And then I guess Tarman's down there.
They get to the phone.
Whack.
Yeah.
And then they see the 800 number on the tank. And throughout the movie, we've kind of been introduced to this government general who's living on the other side of the country in California, I think, with his wife in the mansion.
He's Mr. Happy, right?
Yeah, because for the last 30 years, he's the guy that's been tasked with finding these Easter eggs, as they call them, which is the corpses.
Yeah, quote unquote.
So he's the one that's got to be online 24/7 with this little weird computer that he has. But he's waiting for the call, folks.
So Bert calls the number, and then they patch him. Somehow that information gets patched to the general. And sir, that's been Easter egg hatched.
By the way, guys, there's a long scene. I don't know if Dan O'Bannon was like, yeah, dude, just keep going. To me, it's funny now where the general's talking to Bert and he's going, I see.
Oh, yeah, he's like writing all
this down. And all he says is, and then what happened? Oh, of course.
Yes.
I see, yes. Like, it's so funny. He's so calm amongst whatever chaos. He's so calm taking, but it goes on way too long.
How many are there? Yeah.
Yeah, like he just keeps asking these questions. I bet you Dan O'Bannon was just like, just ask whatever you want. Just keep it going. We're going to keep it rolling. And dude, it's like 5 minutes where he's like, oh my God, he's on the phone asking all this shit, really?
So then he calls the launch site and somewhere in the middle of the country in Nebraska or something, and this young sergeant or whatever.
Louisville, Kentucky is where the movie's taking place.
They get on the horn and get this nuclear warhead, I guess, shot from a mobile launch thing on a train
cannon that would be like on a train car.
I don't think it's a nuclear bomb. I just think it's a bomb. Because it explodes everything. But yeah, because there's still the scenes afterwards, they show people fighting the fires and all this stuff and things. So I mean, if they dropped a nuclear bomb, there'd be nobody
with more smoke coming up.
Yeah, it'd be kind of like we wiped out the whole area. But I think they just dropped a bomb in there, old ordnance.
So right before that bomb's launched, to end everything, we think. Tina and Ernie are up in the attic, and that's when Freddy busts through and has one of the most famous lines for him.
Does that kind of slow-mo pause, and then his voice kind of echoes.
Real quick, you should tell him, because this used to be, I think you used to talk about this too, like Freddy's got a line, like they're just letting Tom Matthews talk while you don't see him. He's down below the door. They show them in the attic.
Right, he can smell her.
Yeah,
right?
He can smell her.
I can smell your brains.
And he talks about, I forgive you, baby. Because they hurt.
Now you just
break my hand off. Yeah.
Just broke my hand off.
Yeah, it's really weird, this dialogue that he's having. It's like all
creepy talk. And Ernie's got his gun out.
Yeah, Ernie's ready to end it for both.
Yeah, Ernie. Yeah, it looks like he's going to shoot her in the head so she doesn't have to suffer. But not sure if that would bring her back to life.
But we don't get to that, thank God.
Right.
Well, nothing better happens. But
you get Bert too. Bert's on the line, and he tells.
Yeah, he's calling.
Who's he tell? Spider, Chuck, and whatever. He tells them. It sounds like they had a contingency plan for this. Like he's on the line on hold for whatever he's doing. He's on hold.
Right. And they're like, wait. Do you hear that? And you hear shh.
Yeah, your incoming bomb.
And the bomb goes off, and supposedly they think it's all over, and the blast radius is 20 blocks or whatever, and
Everything's
we
on
think
fire.
it's all done. And then,
Yeah, you
of
hear the
course,
general talking to his superior, right? Yeah.
Right.
like, president's going to visit there next week, or
Oh, I understand, sir. That would be a disaster, sir. Yes, sir. Like you just hear him saying everything's really good, like
how they're going
minimal,
to cover it up.
minimal death or whatever. Yeah, collateral damage. Thank you. So, yeah.
Don't worry about the fires because it looks like it's going to rain. For the
Oh yeah, he says that the rains are taking care of the fires.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fires, right.
Yeah. So it's
And of course, the rain brings on more zombies.
And we get that kind of cutaway shot where the camera kind of goes through the earth, through all the roots and the.
that's a good shot.
dirt
That's a
and
good
soil.
scene. I like that. We're going down.
That is
I like
a good
that.
scene,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really good. And then you do the skeleton again. They do it twice. And then that Do You Want a Party song comes on again.
Party, right.
But you get a few shots as they're doing the credits. You get shots.
They play some greatest hits. Yeah.
Yeah. But it ends with, it either ends with, not a bad question, Bert. Not a bad question, Bert. Or it ends with, you mean the movie Lied? Like it ends with one of those two. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
You mean the movie Lied, and then that was it. It kind of goes off. Oh my God.
So what do we think about how bleak this movie is? I mean, for a bleak movie, and we're like loving the humor and horror, but man, that thing is bleak.
Oh yeah,
It's nothing good. All of our
folks.
people-
Everybody dies. Spoiler alert.
Oh, my daughter asked me right out of the gate, "Does this person die? Does this person die?" I told her, I said, "They all die."
Yeah, they all die, man.
I go, "Don't worry."
Yeah.
I go, "Don't worry, they all die."
But you don't think of it. You don't think of it that way. When you think of this movie, you kind of think of the fun of it and the horror of it, and I don't know. You just don't think of it as a bleak. Day of the Dead. I'm like, I don't know if I can watch Day of the Dead. Such a bleak movie,
That's a bleak.
It's so
That's a bleak movie.
heavy.
That's
Right.
a bleak
What's that?
movie. Day of the Dead is. But Day of the Dead ends on a positive note because arguably three of your enjoyable characters get away and get to an island that they were talking about earlier. But this one, it's pure chaos that leads to more chaos that ramps up to more chaos. Yeah,
ramps
and
up the whole movie.
there's the outcome is you got to kind of had to feel it, folks. If you're watching the movie, know anything about movies and formulas, you're like, oh, they're going to call the army, and the army's just going to bomb the shit out of them. I mean, that's the joke of it, so to speak.
You're just hoping that your main characters
Yeah,
get out. That's what you're hoping for the whole movie. Like, can they get out?
When the bomb goes off, it's got a cloud, but it shows these little models and how it blows the buildings and stuff. So it kind of gives you an indication, like, whatever that radius was, they bombed out everybody. So unfortunately, even those who survived, which was quite a bit, 4, 5, 6 of them, 6 out of how many total characters did actually survive. And then the army bombs them out and they no longer survive.
Yeah, but they may not have made it out.
No.
There,
Well,
though.
no, they didn't. Not
There was no way. They didn't. I mean, they wouldn't. If that bomb didn't hit, they still wouldn't have got out.
Well, there was that whole row of cop cars that showed up that got annihilated.
Yeah, that was the send more cops thing, and then they showed up and they got annihilated.
Yeah.
And they broke through the barrier. So where was Trash and her party
Right.
going? They were going from house to house, I guess.
It would have just been a complete
Yeah.
takeover. Yeah,
That's
so-
where the 28 days later thing comes in, because they're all just running like that, and they grab the next one and kill it. Then they run to the next one and kill it. You know what I mean? So, but other than that, folks, I mean, it is a phenomenal movie. And Bob is, it sounds like it hasn't been in the zeitgeist, but Bob's been carrying that torch in our little friend group for 40 plus years. That has always made us go back and reference it, because in our time, it was so different. It was so against the grain. It was so out there. Oh my God, how dare you make a zombie movie? Did you ask George Romero? Like it's that.
It was
you know what I
different,
mean?
right? Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it gets lost. There's a lot of bad horror movies, and it kind of gets lost in that shuffle of really cheap knockoff. Let's get it done
Yeah,
quick and
cookie
get
cutter
it out to the
stuff.
theaters.
There's a lot of
Take advantage of it.
extra bad zombie horror movies too. I mean,
Well, just to
those are endless.
poke the elephant in the room, folks, the Return of the Living Dead spawned 2 other sequels. Return of the Living Dead Part 2, then I think there's Part 3, Rave to the Grave, or something like that. There might even be a Part 4.
I didn't even
I'm
watch
not
that.
watching that. I fell asleep in the second one.
There's
I decided
5
not to
total.
finish it. Yeah. Oh my God. But
I didn't.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, two was just to see.
Yeah,
what they
and the
were
unfortunate
doing,
thing
but-
about 2 is it's kind of slash reboot, old school. Let's add some stuff to it. But Jim said the other day, or Bob, forgive me if I'm not quoting one of you or the other. They were surprised at how kid centric the sequel was.
Oh, that was me.
Yeah, because it was focused on these.
Well, I
kids.
was a little less surprised. I was a little less surprised when I read about it, and the director said he didn't want to make a horror movie. It's like, success, you didn't.
Yeah, you didn't, dude. Yeah,
and that's the guy who and that director directed Shockwaves,
which is an awesome movie. From the 70s,
which is
starring Peter Cushing, by the way.
Right.
Go watch that one, folks.
Yeah, they just don't capture the thing that Return of the Living Dead does well is that it threads the needle on the horror / humor trope or formula, and you either do that right or you do it wrong. There's no I kind of got it.
I want to give you guys a good example of something like that, where it has the humor injected in a horror type movie, and that is The American Werewolf in London, which had some really black humor, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I agree.
And it kind of fits in this genre.
It does. You're right. You're absolutely right.
How you guys?
And I saw that in the
classic
theaters.
Example.
Yeah, so that is a good example. Yeah. Plus, but that humor came out. Who's the director of that?
Landis.
John Landis. That's right.
Yeah.
Blues Brothers fame, thriller, things like that. So I mean, I think he could balance that really well, and I enjoyed that movie a lot. So, what were you gonna say?
Humor and horror in a film. The humor and horror in a film like that is it keeps you off balance. So you're laughing 1 minute, and then you're scared the next, and then it helps to, like, you're building up all this anxiety from this terrifying situation,
right?
And then that's usually where the jump scare will come in.
There you go. I was going to say, or the opposite happens, because I know you and I were talking about that years ago when it was like he fell and he was like, "You asshole!" They fell on the moors. Remember that?
Oh, right.
He's like, "You asshole!"
Yeah,
and that fucking werewolf came in and just whoop on his buddy. Boy, that is talk about you being disarmed and suddenly a jump scare. Holy cow!
I had a few quick facts I wanted to mention. That the tagline for Return of the Living Dead was "They're back from the dead and ready to party" was from Matt Groening, I guess, came up with that line. He had a few lines that they had at their disposal, and they picked that one, which I think was a pretty good one. So that's kind of an interesting thing from
Matt
that
Groening
era.
from The Simpsons. Matt Groening, that guy.
Yeah, correct.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I have learned.
Oh, he may have been working in the marketing department.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, he's kind of around in that time. Did they have some others?
They did. They're not very good. I don't have the book in front of me, but they're in there.
That's all we need to know.
That's great.
That's
We leave it at that. That's awesome.
They're really bad.
I've also seen it compared, and I'm not as familiar with this. You guys probably are the EC horror comics, the artwork from that.
So the Tar Man and
the
the gal on the and the gal on the slab.
Who wants to take this?
Let Jim have this one.
Tar Man and the lady on the slab are very EC Comics inspired. And if you look at any of the artwork, they have the artist for the movie, William Stout, was able to really channel that style. There's some makeup designs that, for whatever reasons, they never used that were that way. So
seeing some of their storyboards were actually phenomenal. Like how they were going to block some of those scenes, and I don't know if it was still Stout that was doing the storyboards or not, but like they played really well. Like I would love to have just a book of all those storyboards. The artwork on those is really good. So, what's that Friday the 13th connection, Bob?
That spider.
Yeah.
Oh, we get a couple of them.
Right? He had a couple of them. I guess he had the enchilada one.
Yeah.
The outhouse.
Oh yeah, going in the outhouse. Yeah.
Oh, hey, you okay?
Oh, some damn enchiladas.
Because I think it's 5 and 6 that they're. Freddie, the Tom Matthews was also the grown-up kid from 4.
He was the grown-up Tommy Jarvis.
Grown-up Tommy Jarvis. Yep.
There you go.
So
that was
somehow
that's got to be 5.
Somehow Corey Feldman did not grow up to look like Tom Matthews.
Yeah, dude, that Corey Feldman with the shaved head stuff, dude, to this day, that still freaks me out. So, yeah,
But yeah,
Nunez
so
with the enchilada in the outhouses. Heck, great. I don't know that guy's career, but in the 80s, he showed up in some stuff that was really memorable. So
Linnea Quigley, yeah, the girl was trash. She spun off a Scream Queen career from this, and Joel Shepard was in a lot of other movies like that. So,
and we're still talking about him this many years later. Yeah,
it's funny because it's now within the last 10 years, maybe not even less than that. They're really starting to merchandise this movie finally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
Those signs. I mean, Bob, where's your little tar man, Bob? Did you still have him?
Right back here.
Oh, yeah. So,
oh
yeah,
this guy.
Yeah.
Little Tarman figure, which it's taken this many years for something to come out. It's like,
right.
geez.
Trick or Treat Studios they've licensed it, and they've done a few masks on the
Really?
zombies.
I would think that would be
Yeah.
a difficult one to produce.
Wow.
That's kind of cool. Bob or Jim, one of you guys, what's the book that you would recommend?
The Complete History of the Return of the Living Dead by Christian Sellers and Gary Smart. It's out of print, but if you could find it, like Jim, you found it.
Yeah. I was able to find a used
great
copy for it didn't cost me an arm and a leg. So,
all right, folks. Well, let us know what you think, man. If you haven't seen it, if you have seen it, well, first of all, if you haven't seen it, go see it.
How many crates do we give this one?
real
quick.
It's 5.
Dude, that's 5. Yeah,
out of 5. Yeah, it's going to be 4. No, lower than 4.
No,
right?
if I said
4.5,
it would be because I'm nitpicking the plot holes,
right,
and
right.
I'm not gonna because of what the movie is and what it means stuff. So to me,
It's a fun ride.
It's a fun ride. It's a 5 crater. It's a groundbreaker. It's unlike anything that was out at the time. So and it had a great cast. You could tell that they were having fun doing it. So everything about the things.
5 crates.
I'm 5.
5 crates of rabbit.
We all recommend this. We highly recommend this one if you're a horror fan and you love 80s movie type stuff with horror and humor and some interesting punk rock music in it. And it's got a lot of unique things.
What do you guys own the soundtrack?
Check it out.
Oh, I'm sure I've had it at one time or another. It didn't have the trioxin theme on it, which is the theme that I wanted.
That's that score. Yeah, that score part. I know there's a huge legal thing about the second movie, I think. Or maybe that's the second
it
one.
was on it finally got resolved, but the DVD had some weird music on part 2, right? I've kind of pulled songs off the internet to kind of make my own playlist of that.
There we go.
There's some odd tracks that are not on
Burn us some CDs,
official
Bob.
release. Yeah, right. I definitely will if I can find my burner.
All right. As with everything, how do we end these? I usually say, Bob, take us out.
Check us out on social media, our Instagram. We've been building up and sharing some of our own collection stuff. And you can check that Instagram out. And Facebook, we encourage to join the conversation on our posts. Check it out on our podcast, too, on Spotify. We really appreciate your support. And please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button.
I love it.
And like and support, please. We really appreciate it, and we really enjoy the conversation. We had a lot of conversation on our last one about the crisis in movie theaters, ?
Yeah.
And we got quite a few responses that were fun to interact with our followers or viewers. So really appreciate all the support. And with that, I guess we'll say goodbye for now, right?
Interact with us. We'd love to hear from you.
And with that, we'll say so long from the Fandom Outpost. I'm Bob.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Mark. Talk to you later.
So long. See you next time.